Britain's political terrain is experiencing volcanic disruptions just 6 months into Keir Starmer's leadership reign. What should have heralded a golden age of governmental stability has instead plunged into administrative bedlam, strategic incoherence, and catastrophic public trust freefall. This transcends typical Westminster drama. We're observing the inception of an unprecedented governmental implosion that threatens to reconfigure British democracy for generations. The evidence erupts from countless fronts simultaneously. Battle-hardened Labour councillors are fleeing the sinking ship. Number 10 whistleblowers describe a captainless vessel where the Prime Minister remains blissfully detached from fundamental realities. Flagship policies are spectacularly self-destructing. And most ominously, constitutional scholars caution that Starmer's legislative centerpiece risks triggering democratic meltdown. This expose will illuminate Labour's full-scale disintegration while decoding implications for Britain's trajectory. Hunger for raw political truth? Hit subscribe for consistent intelligence drops. Let's dive into a grassroots insurrection that should send shivers through Labour's war room. In Bolsover, a Labour heartland fortress, 3 veteran councillors dramatically resigned in protest, including Sandpiper, who devoted 3 decades to the party. Their exodus transcends petty squabbles. It reflects fundamental objections to Starmer's directional compass. These aren't peripheral agitators, but cornerstone supporters who meticulously built Labour's local infrastructure over generations. Their resignation spotlights Starmer's ballooning credibility chasm, specifically citing Labour's betrayal of waspy women and pathetic handling of the post office scandal, twin flashpoints where moral courage was desperately needed. These councillors didn't migrate to rival parties but declared independence, demonstrating their disenchantment targets Starmer personally rather than ideologically. This ground-level revolt synchronizes with scorching internal critique. Senior Downing Street insiders recently confided to The Telegraph that Starmer functions like a corporate bureaucrat rather than visionary leader. The anonymous official brutally likened him to a passenger delusionally believing he's commanding an automated locomotive, a devastating metaphor suggesting actual authority resides elsewhere. These revelations expose a dangerous power vacuum. With Britain confronting economic paralysis, criminal epidemic, and healthcare collapse, the nation desperately requires decisive stewardship. Instead, we have a premier characterized by his own lieutenants as obsessed with procedure over vision. The contrast with Blair's iron-fisted administration couldn't be starker. Where Blair dominated his government, Starmer appears subjugated by his. The disaster intensifies when examining Starmer's international posturing amid domestic disarray. Recently attending a Ukraine summit in Paris discussing potential European peacekeeping deployments, while supporting Ukraine remains vital, the timing reeks of diversionary tactics. French President Macron openly contemplated scenarios where European forces could engage Russian troops, a momentous escalating commitment Starmer endorsed without apparent scrutiny. This foreign policy gambit underscores Starmer's fundamental weakness. Leaders who secure domestic authority can project strength internationally. Starmer's desperation for global visibility while his administration disintegrates domestically suggests a leader prioritizing appearances over governance. The summit's emphasis on distant security frameworks contrasts jarringly with burning home front issues like inflation and medical waiting lists demanding immediate intervention. The communications implosion confirms systemic dysfunction. Starmer's communications director Matthew Doyle resigned abruptly after failing to establish any coherent governmental narrative. His replacement by dual-spin doctors James Lyons and Steph Driver signals desperation, not strategy. When administrations require multiple message architects simultaneously, they are visibly struggling to articulate their purpose. Labour's policy agenda now risks triggering juridical catastrophe. The controversial Planning and Infrastructure Bill contains provisions permitting compulsory land acquisitions at current rather than potential valuation. Legal scholars warn this could ignite mass litigation from agricultural stakeholders facing substantial financial devastation. The policy compares unfavorably with international precedents. Even India's land acquisition framework provides fairer compensation. This perfect storm of crises reveals Starmer's fundamental miscalculation. He presumed Labour's electoral triumph represented enthusiasm for his leadership rather than exhaustion with conservative rule. Without clear mandate or compelling vision, his government flounders. The councillor defections showcase grassroots disconnection. The internal leaks expose leadership deficiencies. Policy chaos demonstrates governmental incompetence. Britain deserves superior leadership. The nation confronts generational challenges requiring bold, coherent governance. Instead, we witness a premier described by his own team as drowning, pursuing potentially unconstitutional policies while struggling to communicate fundamental principles. Coming months determine whether Starmer can reassert control or if Labour's majority evaporates through by-election defeats and collapsing morale. Warning indicators prove undeniable: plummeting approval ratings, high-level resignations, policy disasters, legal time bombs. This isn't ordinary political difficulty but systemic failure. Starmer promised competent centrist governance but delivers only turmoil and confusion. Unless dramatic transformation occurs, history may record this as Britain's briefest and least effective administration. Found this analysis penetrating? Subscribe for more unflinching political coverage. The next year proves decisive for Starmer's premiership. Will he recover or become another political casualty? Only time reveals, but odds shorten daily.